I think before we look at something as a failure, as the ending, we should try to look at it and understand what it actually is, because it's a transition. It's a transition of things. So it's not, your life's not over. It's you're transitioning into something else.
Hey everyone, I'm Burton and welcome to PropStream Pros, the podcast where we dive into the lives of real estate professionals who've made it. In each episode, we'll explore how they got started, challenges they faced, and the strategies that helped them succeed, so that you can learn from their journey and apply those insights to your own path. Whether you're just getting started or already building a portfolio, there's something here for everyone. So make sure to subscribe, follow, and join us as we talk to professionals who've made their own success.
On this episode of PropStream Pros, Burton sits down with Dan MacKinnon to explore how finding your niche and staying true to yourself can help you stand out, generate leads, and build a successful real estate career.
Before becoming one of Florida's most trusted relocation experts, Dan MacKinnon was chasing a professional motocross career until a devastating injury changed everything. Rather than letting that setback define him, he reinvented himself, built a successful marketing business, and eventually turned his passion for helping people relocate into a thriving real estate brand. In this episode of PropStream Pros, Dan shares how your personal story can become your greatest competitive advantage, why selling a lifestyle is more powerful than selling a home, and the mindset that made him turn his biggest setback into his greatest opportunity. Dan, it's a huge pleasure to have you here. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Burton. I'm super excited to be on here. I love the program, love the platform, so excited to spend some time with you.
Well, I'm happy it goes both ways because, knowing your story, we've spoken before. Obviously, I follow you on Instagram. Your story is amazing, and I'm happy you're able to join our show today to share, what you do in the real estate space and how you do it very well, but also your story and how you got to where you are today. And I think that's equally important as to what you bring in the real estate space. So let's begin. Let's start with that real estate part. So I understand you're a realtor, but how long have you been doing that for?
Yeah, I've been licensed here in Florida for 7 years now. I think I'll hit 8 years soon here, but yeah, just right around 7 years. So haven't been doing it too long, but long enough that you're in the game.
I love that. Yeah, you know what? 7 years is a very long time. And actually just, I think last year a report came out that like 71% of real estate agents didn't do a deal last year. And I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of those are like first year real estate agents. Yeah, and so just knowing that and knowing that you're about to hit your 8-year mark, that's amazing. I in my opinion, and my opinion may not weigh heavily, but I think you're a successful real estate agent.
Thank you. No, I think that anyone out there that can schedule their own day, pay their own bills, and run a business, no matter how big or small your profit is, if you're able to do that in America right now, you are very successful. So I'm super thankful for, being able to be, in this business and being able to do other things because, it's hard. Like I think that the stats are easy when you're doing a couple deals here and there, but it is hard out there. Like the market has completely changed over the past couple years, especially down here in Florida. So I think for people that are watching this and you're either starting out or been in those times of lower deals, just know that if you're able to strap together enough deals to keep yourself in the game, that is all that matters.
That's amazing and very great words for those that might be listening or those that are in the space right now thinking, have I made it? Well, Dan just gave you a pretty good idea whether you have.
Well, I think the battle of do I make it? I think I can look at my own production or amount of deals, and it's like, what does that mean? What does make it mean? And I think you need to define it as come back as a business owner and say, what are those goals that you have? Not, consistently looking at what other people are doing and ranking yourself among them. Pull yourself back for a second and rank yourself among what are your goals as a business owner. Real estate's a funny thing because we use so much social media, and because of that, it's so easy to have comparison and and go down that kind of trail of thought. But if you really pull back as a business owner, most business owners would like to just have their business be able to pay the bills, give them enough to live, and have their own schedule. So you got to keep that into perspective.
I love that, and I'm even guilty of that. As a matter of fact,
All of us are. I am.
Yeah, and it's funny that you said that because when I go out to these events and I speak to inspiring real estate agents and investors, one of the common things I hear is I want that financial freedom, and when I hear that, what you said earlier, it's that time to myself. It's being able to run my own schedule, to spend more time with my loved ones. Mm-hmm. What I also notice in my observation is that sometimes we get to that point, but then we forget that we wanted that. And then we're looking for that next shiny object. So now we have our free time, but it's like not enough. So I like that. I like that you're encouraging people to just take that one big step back and evaluate where you are today to where you were. And you definitely would see it in a half glass full type of mindset. I love that.
For sure.
Well, let me ask you this, because when the word realtor, real estate agent gets thrown out there, there's a lot to it, right? Like, obviously you mentioned social media. Like when I go on Instagram and I'm seeing a real estate agent, well, there's a lot of aspects about a real estate agent that you could be good at, right? Like you could be good at open houses. You could be good at those marketing reels, because I'm seeing real estate agents go crazy with that stuff. You could be good at commercial buildings, vacant land. You could be good at dealing with some of the craziest transactions, like a probate with 17 signatures you got to go get after.
Yeah.
What is it about
first-time home buyer? Like there's just so many classifications of the clientele.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you this question: when it comes to being a realtor, what do you think is your specialty when it comes to everything we just mentioned? Like, what is it about you that you know for a fact, hey, this is my domain. I dominate this domain.
Yeah, relocation. That is just a big thing here in Florida. It's a big theme here where I live, because the kind of joke is no one's from Sarasota. Everyone kind of moves here. So you have a lot of people relocating from the Northeast, from the Midwest, from California, even from places like Atlanta. So because I actually made the trip myself, and my family and I moved from New England down to Florida, to the East Coast, and then over here, it's a story. And what's funny is I was mentioning to a coaching client of mine, and I mentioned, if you don't have experience, you stand on confidence. And so for me, early on, without confidence, I would stand on the experience that I just moved my family to Florida. So even if I was not, at the time I wasn't in real estate. So I was able to tell the story of the experience and use that in place of confidence for so long. And so it became that now, like through social media, a lot of people just come to me for relocation. So because they see things like my family, what they're doing here, and I always kind of mention that we moved from other places, and and that's kind of like the theme behind a lot of stuff, because it goes a little bit deeper than it. Not only is it a story for me, and it helped me a lot in the beginning, but it also gives me a lot more freedom. And the freedom comes with the calls or Zoom calls, because they're all from out of state. I do a lot of video for them in the beginning, and then they fly in, and it's very scheduled. And there's a timeline to it. They fly in, they look at areas, and they're moving in a month or 3 months or 6 months, and you kind of timeline it out. So for myself, it's been a cool journey, because not only was I able to use something that I did myself to capture more of what people are looking for without having that confidence in the beginning. Now it kind of turned into a really, strong niche for myself, because now I get so many people. Like I probably get, 2 to 3 Instagram leads a week. From people saying like, hey, Dan, we're thinking about relocating. What can you tell us about the area? Now, some of those people might be 2-3 years out. Some people are 2 months out. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's that consistency of showing up as who I am. Because it never changed who I was. It was just my story. So like the same thing goes, and I know this was a lot deeper than your question, but I think the same thing goes with like a lot of my coaching clients I work with, is you have to define what you enjoy in life, because we sell lifestyle. We sell lifestyle, and we deliver homes for them to live in, but we are selling lifestyle. And so if you can find your niche within your area, whether it's kids, whether it's volunteering, whether it's animal shelter stuff, like there's so many things you can define that people are interested in, and they find out who you are, and then they go, oh, we want lifestyle too. We want to live like, so they find you kind of automatically. And that's where for me, it's become such an easy flow of business, and easy comparatively to cold calling or running ads or doing double the work for a Zillow lead. So relocation.
I love that.
That's my long answer.
Well, there's a lot to take from that. First, I want to start with if you don't have confidence, utilize experience. And I want to wrap my head around that because I was going to say, why did you get into the relocation aspect of being a real estate agent or realtor? But you answered the question. You said, because my family was from the Northeast and then we came down to Florida. So I have that experience of what it feels like to transfer, to move a whole family, to literally upset your roots and place it somewhere else entirely. So I love that. But then, as you were saying, as you do a few deals, eventually that experience starts becoming more and more. But then you gain your confidence because you're getting these deals and you're doing it more and more and more.
That experience
and
feeds that confidence, and then it's so easy to talk about it and that's what it is like, I think that, a lot of individuals, think experience is this magical thing, and it's not. It's just as many deals as you can do and put data to it. Like, this person liked this community and these people didn't like this community. Okay, that's 2 deals. It's 50-50. It's still up in the air. When you do 54 deals and then you look and you go, wow, 38 people liked HOAs and 14 people didn't. And then you go, wow, I probably should figure out more about HOAs. A lot more of my clientele are wanting HOAs. Should I show more of this? And so you develop, and that's what experience really is. Or not experience. That's what experience is, and it turns into confidence, because then you can tell that story so much more flexible. You know what? I've heard this before, that people that don't like HOAs end up liking this because of A, B, and C, and they like this because of 1, 2, 3. That's so easy, and it comes out authentic because it's experience. But it's just times at bat. It's just breaking down.
You know what's crazy though, Dan? I just want to pose this thought for a second, right? Not that this is a solution, but let's just ask this question to ourselves right now. Earlier, I was talking about how 71% of real estate agents didn't do a deal last year. My question is, how many of them didn't utilize their own personal experience? Instead, they try to come into this industry thinking, I need to fake this confidence or act as if, when the reality is maybe you could have gotten your first deal by just looking inward. What is it that you've gone through? What is it that you might specialize in? Have you gone through a broken family situation? Have you gone through a divorce? Have you moved yourself from a different county or a different state? What life experiences are you tapping into so that you can pursue
some of them?
This?
You just nailed something that a lot of people want all the time. Everyone comes to me and says, Dan, what can I do on social? What can I do in marketing that will really lead to a bunch of lead flow and really last, right? Because everything is like a firework, right? We shoot it up in the air, it goes off, people go, wow, and then they forget about us 2 seconds later because there's more fireworks. How can we put together an experience for someone to walk away and go, wow, I really like Dan, or I really like Burton? And I think at the end of the day, when you're able to create that experience for someone to come into in realized life. And so, like you said, is pulling from your past. It's like, say you're a nurse. Like, if you can just talk more about like what that process of, people you met before and working with people, then they can know that you're more caring or empathetic. What happens if you are someone that's more finance backed and you can help people go, hey, you know what? The FHA is actually a really cool loan. It's 3.5%. And you can actually get seller credits up to 4%. So you can cover, whatever the thing is in your state or area. And like you just said, though, you're able to pull instead of trying to recreate who you are. And so that's probably like, continued probably conversation about my career is like, I continue to pull from my past versus trying to recreate who I was, because who wants the other generic 20,000 real estate agents in my county?
Nobody
wants that.
Yeah, nobody
does. They just want the guy that goes, hey, I moved, I did the U-Haul things, and I stored them, and that wasn't the best thing, but you know what? Later on, I realized this. I'm like, dude, yeah, you actually lived the life I'm doing right now. My kid, it's not Providence, Rhode Island, where you came from, but it's this part of Michigan. It's like, all right, well, that's just the same mileage, and so you wore winter coats, and okay, so you don't need those anymore, and it's just explaining what people live, and that's what it is. So, going back to like the experience and confidence, I think that if more people pulled, like you said, from their own experience inside and it offered that as a more personal level experience, it affects people so much differently.
100%. And that's my observation, is I see that sometimes people forget what's inside. And when they get into this industry, they try to redefine themselves all over again. It's like, don't do that, because it's really who you are that got you here to begin with. Another thing too, I think can add to that, the 71% that we were talking about, is that, I'm going to be honest here, there is a slight misconception when you think about a realtor or real estate agent. You think about these individuals that are in suit and ties. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I've gone to events, real estate events, where you'll see very nice dressed people.
Sharp people.
I mean, again, we're trying to get an impression out there. But the reality is, and you just mentioned it just a few moments ago, I truly believe real estate is one of the last surviving industries where you truly can believe yourself. Like when you take all the suits and ties out and all these business outfits out, like when you strip that down, every single one of these individuals that are successful because they're being themselves.
Yeah.
Don't let the suit and tie
connecting
fool
with
you,
other
maybe.
individuals.
Exactly. So don't let the suit and tie fool you. You might think, oh, this
that's
guy,
the thing, too,
girl
is
might
like,
be like educational, but that's not the
You
case.
bring
Sorry,
a really
Dan, go
good
ahead.
point up. No. You bring up a really good point, and I want to emphasize that again. If anyone's starting out newer or trying to advance in their career, and they're like trying to scale, or I want to bring my average price point from 300 to $1 million, and you're trying to like redefine who you are, don't do that. Start backing into what you can do for other people, and realizing that like you can create a much bigger like effect on other people just by being who you are and speaking to what people need, instead of trying to recreate yourself and fall into some like trajectory of like, well, luxury real estate agents drive white Mercedes, luxury real estate agents do these obnoxious videos. It's like, no, just dig into what those people want, because if a guy in a suit and tie can do it, so are the tattooed realtors.
Yeah.
I know a bunch of people that are up and down tattoos, wear black t-shirts every day, and they do 40 to 50 deals a year. And I'm going to tell you what, most agents, that's all they want to do. They want to do 20 to 30 depending on their area, 20 to 30 or 40 to 50. That's the most their area is going to do, and they're going to go like, I want to crush that. That's good. Well, here's the thing. There's people that are doing it in tattoos, in suits, in flip-flops. So here's the thing. Go find your little piece of the pie.
Yeah, and that's what I want to emphasize a lot. Like this industry, this space has grown, or has finally revealed its true nature, like its true self, which is just a bunch of people really being themselves and helping other people's. And it's really when you really like look inward and you pull from inside that success comes in. You know, on a side note, I was at an event and I was talking to a real estate professional, and this was just a kind of a fun conversation. He said, Burton, I think I might need to start getting more involved with this Roblox thing. I'm like, Roblox, isn't that the thing kids play? He's like, yeah, my son's all over it, and he plays it like religiously. And I'm like, okay, but why would you want to get into it? He's like, well, think about it. In 20 years, these kids are going to need houses, and that's probably something that they're going to relate with. So it dawned upon me, because while he was talking about that, I grew up loving video games. I grew up loving comic books, right? Mm-hmm. Fast forward, that's become one of the biggest like entertainment things out there. And as a matter of fact, there are people that are streaming, talking about it, even in the production of it, making millions of dollars, ladies and gentlemen. Millions of dollars talking about video games and talking about animation and all this other stuff. And let's say I'm a realtor that knew all of that. I could now be a realtor for that audience. Do you see what I'm trying to connect here? That there are things
I know exactly
in
what
your
you're talking
life,
about, because I know
there are
I know
things in
someone
your
that's,
life.
I know someone
go
that's
ahead.
recently in real estate. He's very young.
Yeah.
His Instagram handle is like something like Florida Man Real Estate or Florida Man Realtor, something like that. And he does videos literally gearing towards like his age range and below, people that aren't even like can't even afford houses. And he's got like 100,000 followers. He just got his license like 9 months ago. Because I mean, he's a marketer at heart. But here's the thing: if you go find his videos, it's like it will just be him in front of like literally, I think one of them is Roblox. It's like buying a house in Roblox, and he's doing a green screen, and it's like jumping through. And it's like, sir, do you want to see this? And it's the dumbest video. The amount of shares on it is insane because he tapped into an entire generation. Like, I don't understand it. I got 3 kids. 2 of them play Roblox all the time. Yet I should understand it, but here's the thing: I don't understand it at all. If you can tap into things like this, though, there are entire markets that will start trusting you because they're like, "Oh, it's the real estate guy that does the Roblox. He's cool." Like,
yeah.
Hold on, but think about that. we want trust. We want trust from people because then they will trust us, they will buy with us, and they will always use us. If I'm cool, if I'm the Roblox guy, or if I understand, or one of my marketings here and there is about Roblox and it's funny, now you're like, oh, I like this guy. I trust him. That's it. That's the qualification nowadays of a lead. It's like, I trusted you. I'm going to sign you up for your emails. And yeah, Dan's going to sell us a house because he's cool. What the heck? And like, it's changed so much because 20 years ago in real estate, it was like, is he well qualified? Do people like him? Can he do the job? Right now, it is like almost an entertainment value to get the trust first. And then it's like, yeah, don't mess up. Like that's we have to follow
Obviously,
through.
yeah, we got to follow through.
But here's the thing. You could do 10, 14 deals a year just off of posting dumb video game stuff in front of homes because people are going to go, he's funny. He sells houses in Tampa.
It's relatable to people.
We're going to be moving to Tampa. Let's use the funny guy.
Absolutely.
So it's changed so much, like you said, about like diving into who you are, but also aligning that with where could that go? And like you could take any industry. Like I used, the pet like adoption, or I don't know the right word for it, but where the pet shelter.
Shelters.
I know multiple people that have had their business off of how much they care about dogs. Like after every sale, I donate this amount of money to the dog shelter, and then they show videos of her at the dog shelter and like start doing stuff. She gets like literally 20 to 25 sales a year because people want to work with her just because of that.
Yeah, because they're pet lovers and they feel the same way. And that's the whole point here is that you might think what you're into today is silly. You might think, oh man, no one likes watching classic old films in black and white. I must be an oddball. Wrong. There are millions of Americans out there that love that. As a matter of fact, you post a video on that, like Dan says, they're going to watch it and they're going to be like, oh, this real estate agent likes what I like. I like this person. I trust
this is original. Someone's not doing this.
So I wanted to bring that up because when you said, hey, I didn't have the confidence at first, so I leaned on my experience, that to me was a very big statement, Dan, that you said, because in this industry, I observe a lot of people, they try to redefine themselves and they try to become someone they're no longer. And I just don't think that's the right approach. And I love that about you. Like, you've always kept your real self. And so I just wanted to highlight
I appreciate that.
But
Yeah. And here's the thing that was like, there's a little bit of math to that. There's a little bit of math to it. It's not just full authenticity, guys. Like, and I want to say that like to everyone listening to this is because it's very important to break that down in the fact that it's like, I had a lot of fun things in my life in my past that I could have leaned on and gone into. Relocation wasn't like me moving my family down to Florida wasn't necessarily like a highlight of my life that I took or I did so many times. It was something that related to other people within what I wanted to do. Correct. I have done other things growing up or sports or whatever it is that I could be like, well, I could be that guy. I could be the dirt bike guy because I grew up raising motocross. So it's like I could be the dirt bike guy. Yeah, there's a lot of people moving to Florida that want to ride dirt bikes. It's a lot less than the people that are just moving here in relocation. So that you have to, we're in sales. So I want people to understand you can have fun with sales. You can be authentic in marketing. But at the end of the day, it's like I chose the relocation because it's like there's a lot of pain points I can solve or I can help solve or I can help, guide people to. And there's a lot more people. And the same thing with like the pet thing. It's like a lot of people like dogs. Now, if you're going to be like, well, I want to be the Great Dane rescue okay, well, how many people are moving to Florida that have Great Danes then?
The iguana real estate
for real
agent.
With you. Like
no,
and that's
there
the thing
is
about
somebody,
you have
but
to break down
the percentage.
You have to break down what that's going, because if you're going to be your authentic self, you also have to see value on the other side, because this is your career and you do want to advance it. It's not just about being like, go be yourself, and hopefully you're not one of the people that bails out of the industry. You need to make sure it aligns with who's moving there. If it's a lifestyle, if you're into boating and you're like, I want to show everybody the boating, that's great. That's actually a really good one. Don't go niching about being like, here's how to do knots. No, take the boat and show houses on canals and be like, this is how much depth you need to get a boat in and out of these areas. The most of the people that live here use these type of boats. Don't, you know what I mean? And that's how you use your niches, because you answer questions that other people that have your interest are going to have in your lifestyle.
I love that. And so I just want to kind of expose what you said and kind of just reemphasize what you said. While you might as an individual have a lot of really cool hobbies and you might want to utilize one of them to get into, to tie it with real estate and get leads. I like how you said, pick one that has the most of an audience, I would say, right? Like you said, like I like the boat analogy. Like, if I'm a boating guy, how can I use that in real estate? Well, there's a bunch of real estate are attached to lakes and by the bay, by the ocean.
Yeah.
Utilize your boat knowledge. Like you said, what boats are preferred for this type of house and stuff like that. So 100%. I love that. Like, hey, guys, at the end of the day, yes, we want to be ourselves, but understand we also still need to generate leads and build an audience. So just pick something that you do. It's really great and really awesome. Just make sure there's an audience, a pretty substantial audience behind that. Because at the end of the day, right, we do need to make profit. So I think that's smart.
And I think that what you do is, what you end up doing is, if you find that thing that you can pour yourself into and you know there's enough exposure on the other side, you can fully commit to being that authentic. You know, if you're going to be like the guy that tries out all the golf courses in your area to show you which ones are the best value and where you should live by them, well, that's going to take some effort and so to really jump into it all. But here's the thing: it's on the flip side. It's like you went into golf. You didn't go into I don't know, something very vague. You know what I mean? You know that people in your area or in your selling in golf course communities, like you see an out of it, so you can really jump in. And that's the next, really, the level up of it is like just being able to jump in, all in. And when it comes to like the relocation, it's just not like saying, hey, I'm the relocation guy, or hey, I'm the golf guy, or hey, I'm the boat guy. It's then now starting to study and understand, what do people want to know? It's like, what do people actually need to know? And understanding from the user level, it's like, because those are the pre-market indicators. What they are like, if people are starting to look like, what is it like to live in Sarasota, where I live? Well, that's a pre-market indicator. They're so up in the air, but it's showing like, or how much is it to have a boat in Sarasota? If they're searching that from Ohio, that's a pre-market indicator. So if I can start understanding and start marketing to those ones. So if they search like, what is it like having a boat in Sarasota? And my blog comes up, my video comes up, my content comes up, and then I'm speaking about it, they're going to trust me before they even make the decision. That's where the really cool piece about the lifestyle is if you can work it in, you're getting pre-market like nods from people before they're even locked in, and then you're just selling them that lifestyle. Then they're just going to come to you and be like, hey, Dan, we've been interested for a while. What does a $500,000 townhouse look like? Can you just send us some? And that's how you curate something where it's not just pounding your lifestyle or what you used to do into people's face. It's curating a point in time where they can follow along, and then they're just like, hey, we love what you're up to. We just have some questions.
That's so smart. I like Dan, let me ask you this question, because earlier you mentioned you're getting like 2 or 3 leads on Instagram. Without going too much into like your whole entire process, what are some top, let's say 3, what are like 3 questions you normally ask when you're on these Zoom calls to qualify that buyer? Like, are they personal questions, or are they questions about finance? Like, what do you think is more important in that
There's
in that
3
conversation?
main ones. Great question. There's 3 main ones in real estate that I will always ask, because it's very important for me. One is timeline. When are you looking to move? Because my market goes up and down. So I need to understand to help you, what kind of houses are we looking at? What's the timeline of things? If you're looking at new construction, is it going to be done, sold out, or not started just yet, or not available? Like, there's a lot of things in there. Secondly is like, what's your budget? Because I live in an area that's very vastly different. Like, if we could start talking about living in Sarasota, and you could be up in the $10 million range, or you could be living here for $350,000. There's a little bit of a map difference and lifestyle difference, and you're going to feel a big difference. And then third is life is an overall lifestyle question, but it's really like, what does your day-to-day look like? Meaning, do you live with anyone? Do you have kids? And if you, so like, say you live with someone and have kids, okay, are they in school or not? Do I need to understand how far you are away from schools, and school matter to you? But if if you don't have kids and you're retired and you sit there all day and you go, all right, cool. So how do you, like, what are the stores you shop at? Do you go to Costco or BJ's, or you just go to your regular store? Because I know retired people don't like going a lot of places. They want healthcare and stores close to them. So for me, then I can start mapping out a lot of things in my head. And you got to start thinking just like an algorithm does. People overcomplicate algorithms. Algorithms are just like yes, no's. It's a whole equation of things. And that's what I start doing. I start building almost like I put each client of mine, each lead, into my own algorithm. I go, all right, I know 3 places that could suit them. I'm going to just start and so that's where I start asking those 3 kind of questions. And then from there, you can start going in and out of like that lifestyle one is last, because here's the thing, it can end real quick or it can go for a while. Oh, you have 3 kids? No way. Awesome. So the 3 kids, like, are they into any sports? Okay, soccer. Okay, soccer. Okay, so we need a good school in soccer. Here's the thing. I only know 2 places on this, but it's going to end up being a place that's going to be up in the top of our range and need to be 2 stories. I know you wanted a ranch home, though. How are we feeling about that? What did I just did there right there, though, is I qualified them right from a couple questions. They're like, hold on, how, you know already 2 places and whatever? Yeah, because at the end of it, like, we may find a diamond in the rough that's exactly one, but I'm going to start pushing you to answer questions with me on the phone, because I want to find us really where we're going to be at, so I can talk to you like a human instead of being like, yeah, Sarasota's great. Come by and some visit and we'll go look at some homes. No, I want to fast forward their whole process and be like, here's the deal. You want an HOA, you want a good community, you want to be close to soccer and good school. There's literally 2 parts of town. They're 2 different towns, 2 different areas. You get one of the 2. I'm going to send you those. They're going to look very similar because it's Florida new construction, but these are the 2 differences, and I'll put it in an email. Let them roll from there. And once again, this kind of goes all back on lifestyle, because like, I didn't sell them a home. I literally sold them the idea of 2 different areas and sent them inventory. They can pick the home they want. I sold them the lifestyle that aligned with what they want or what they need.
Dan, if you're listening to this, I hope I literally rewind, maybe get some notes out, because very powerful advice you gave. So just reiterate those top 3 questions. One is time frame, right? Yeah. Knowing how because the market is fluctuating, like you said, you know.
And if you're coming next week, I'm like, let me clear my schedule. Let's talk like business right now. But if you're coming in 9 months, I'm sitting back in my chair and like, yeah, no, like reach out when you can. Like, you know what I mean? The timeline really changes how aggressive the next questions are going to go. My timeline, if you're coming next week, I'm like, we got to lock in a budget so I can be real with you right now about, you know, if I'm locking in my schedule, I'm doing all this stuff, I need to know a real number here, how much of your payment or budget. Versus if you're 2 years out, ma'am, I'm going to just start sending you some stuff. You start picking out some neighborhoods, but don't even worry about if it's 600,000 or 700,000, because it's going to change.
And that kind of answered my other question I had in mind, is like, with so many calls and people calling from all sorts of different states, like, how do you even qualify all of them? But that time frame,
it's timeline,
and then the budget comes next, because like you said, yeah, if you're going to come see me next month, what's your budget? I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to waste my time at the same time.
And
right?
and then I can align you, and I can say exactly, I'm going to send you exactly what we can look at. I'm not going to try to like. That's the one thing too, is I never upsell people. I'm never going to upsell people in my area. I'm going to let them fall in love with it. Like, I'm not going to upsell with you like, you have a 300, we can find you that. No, like, let me send
you don't even have to say
get.
that. I kind of knew that without you even saying that. And you know why? Because of question number 3. Because like you said, question number 3, I want to know everything about you, because I'm not trying to sell you a house. I'm trying to sell you your new lifestyle, or this
align you with that.
Yes. So you didn't even have to say that. I already knew that, because when you asked, though, okay, tell me everything about, you know, why, and, you know, finding about their kids, whether kids play sports or whether they're retired or the stores that they shop in. Dan, when you were saying all of that, I was very impressed, because at that point, you're not treating it like a transaction. You're treating it like, hey, I'm here to help a human being. I'm here to help someone relocate. And in this case, they're probably relocating from a different state or county. That's a big thing. And the last thing you want any of these individuals, or if you're that individual, is to regret any of it. Or discover that, hey, I just moved into an environment where my kids can't play soccer. Could you imagine that? Exactly. Like, that ain't funny. Or
we bought a house that's 35 minutes from the soccer stadium, and it really sucks to drive through that traffic. And here's the biggest thing, is we moved from Chicago because we didn't want to be near traffic. Like that, hearing people's visions on what their life is really important, because here's the thing, I went through it. You know what I mean? Like, I have 3 kids, so I can see more of that lifestyle, and I've worked with enough older people that I can kind of see it's like healthcare is kind of like a thing, and as they get older, it's like kind of a serious thing. So I think even as you're repeating it, I think that even hearing it back, it's pretty interesting, because I don't always hear myself back. You know what I mean? When someone's talking through this, but at the same time, I think it's interesting, because when you hone in on someone's lifestyle, it becomes so unique and genuine to them. But it really does start with a very couple simple questions. You know what I mean? Like, who do you live with, and what do you like to do? Oh, I'm retired. My wife's with me. I love golfing. You know, she's into this mahjong thing, and, you know, I just love getting out. My grandkids come and visit me. You just told me so much about exactly the house that you need, more than you know, you know?
That's so awesome. Dan, you've provided a lot of amazing information, and this all dialed in with, what niche are you in, and the relocation, having that experience personally, and then tapping into that experience, but then evolving it to.
I want to say.
Oh, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just thought of one thing I wanted to preface because
yeah, go.
I want to say this.
Keep
you
adding
said
value.
something. You said to me, you were like, "Hey, it's a lot more than you're doing than just a transaction." And I want to highlight this because through coaching, I work with a lot of clients, and a lot of them say the same thing. Like, dude, this is a lot of work. This is like what you want me to do during this is a lot of work, or that's just a lot of questions, or this is a lot of notes, and it doesn't become a lot of work. It's just general once you get used to it. But here's the reason. The reason I put so much time and value into the service of the relocation people is because of this. They all refer me. I'm doing double deals. What I'm doing is that first relationship with someone moving from Ohio, they're going to tell me that their kids are going to come visit them, and they have 3 kids, and their brother is actually thinking about moving to Florida. If I do such a great job, they're going to not stop talking about me. And so what I just did is I planted a seed on that first person. So for every time I plant a seed, my future is golden. I don't have to repeat all the stuff. They're going to go, Dan, it's so great to meet you. My parents have said a ton. We want something very similar to what they're doing. They're going to start telling me their whole lifestyle timeline and whatever. Like it's just open. And that's where I'm at now. It's like I have 3 kids. I'm really busy with them and coaching and all this other stuff I'm doing. It's like, to be honest, like I don't really farm for leads anymore. Like I get phone calls that are like that. It's like, hey, this is what happened.
That.
Or it's because there is a reason on going so deep on those 3 simple questions and aligning such a depth of knowledge in your area or anything like that. It takes time, and you have to research, and you have to do. I've done a lot of work, but it's because I made sure that Bob and Martha from Ohio now tell everyone they know, Dan helped us come here. You cannot use a single different person than Dan because he made us feel heard. I'm honestly, here's the thing. There's 28,000 agents in my county. I probably, other than the care I gave them, the same process. It's not much different.
Nothing changes.
Some of them are new construction homes. And so it's the conversations. It's the first Zoom calls. It's the way I ask questions. That's what people are falling in love with, and that's what they'll tell back. So everything we kind of like highlighted, like that's 80% of my world. Like, yes, 20% of the transaction is 80% of my time, right? That's all the BS, the driving, all this stuff. But 80% of the actual deal comes from those 3 simple questions in the actual first Zoom. And the way I make them feel before, whether I'm on Instagram or something else, but it's also the way I made them feel on Instagram goes right to that Zoom. And they always meet me and they go, Dan, you're just the same. I go, yeah, this is me. This is who you get. Because I've created a point where it's like, no matter what day you meet me, this is who you get. And I'm so glad to help you. And so I'm not jumping, once again, go back to, instead of trying to be someone else, instead of trying to fall into, this luxury agent or this agent I want to be, I'm just myself. I've found alignments with what I like to do in my life and what I'm good at inside the industry to help people. You can always help people and have fun and make a ton of money. Like, you don't have to look at helping people as this like nonprofit thing.
I love that. Dude, I love that.
I know we went off the rails. I've been
because I'm no, you're okay. And I'm trying to wrap my mind around that because I love that. Like, I didn't even think about like the whole, I planted this seed with this family that's from out of state. I gave them an experience of a lifetime, like literally. You gave them an experience of a lifetime. And I didn't even think about the word of mouth because you're right. It's not like they were loners or people that didn't have friends and family in Ohio. Like, no, they had their roots. They had their friends and family.
They had a full-blown life up there.
Absolutely. So it's kind of, I was laughing as you were mentioning it a little bit because I'm like, Dan's over here literally moving family trees to Sarasota, Florida.
The amount of
you start
people
with one person and then all of a sudden their whole like cousins and relatives and friends and family want to move.
I will be honest. I probably have like, if you broke it down, it's probably, I have at least one referral from every other client because I've had multiple that are like 5 or 6 trees down, you know what I mean? And then like, there's a lot that never talk to you again. But if you averaged it out, it's so many because it's from parents, like the kids moved down here and then the parents bought a condo, or the parents moved down and then the kids came and then the cousin of the kids came. You don't know what you're doing because like you said, they're not loners in their area. They came down to play soccer, and now their whole soccer team is still on the Facebook group. And they're like, hey, Johnny, we're coming down to Anna Maria. Can we connect with you? And then they come and see where you live. And then they're just like, wow, this is really nice. How do we get more? And they're like, actually, our real estate agent, Dan's great. And this is not, once again, we went deep on relocation. So if you live in a relocation, this is great. Now, if you are somewhere else, say you're in Ohio, you find the same thing, though. It may not be relocation, but it's a linear moving. It's people that are upsizing or downsizing. People are getting older and they need to downsize, and people that are growing families, they upsize. You just need to plant the seeds, because if once someone has a great experience with you, they're going to want to tell everybody. Because here's what we do as human beings. We love talking about ourselves. So you plant the seed about how great you are into a story that they like to tell, and you'll be told all the time.
I love it. Dan, I love your energy too. I want to highlight that. Like when you're talking about everything, like over these last few, like several moments, you can just feel the energy. And I can tell deep down inside of you, you really are a person that wants to help other people. And you really care about, the experience that they're going to go through, because it's a big one. And I'll be honest with you, I love that, because you reap the benefits from that. You help someone, you give them this amazing experience from relocating where they're at to where they're going to be at, or where they're going to move to, and then that, again, just increases business because of the referral. But I want to step out of real estate really quick. I want to talk about you. I don't really know people know you as an individual, but at the top of the call, you mentioned you relocated from the Northeast, but you also mentioned that you had a motocross background. Is that right? Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I grew up racing dirt bikes. I started riding dirt bikes when I was 3. My dad was a three-wheeler professional when they had three-wheelers back in the day. That was crazy. I grew up racing dirt bikes and started racing when I was very young, and raced until I was about 19 years old.
Well, hold on here. That's 16 years of racing. So would you say that you were like in that higher echelon of dirt bikers? Like
I have a lot of my friends went pro. I have a couple friends that are national champions. So yes, I would definitely rode more on the pro-am side, not like amateur pro-am. So, and then I got hurt when I was like 18. So, it kind of just stopped that career quick. So no, it was a great, a fun upbringing in motocross. It was definitely electric. I mean, a lot of adrenaline and stuff like that. It was interesting. I got to travel a lot. But I got hurt when I was 18 and kind of just stopped because I broke my wrist, and it was too bad to kind of keep racing. So it was one of those things where, it threw me for a little bit of a loop, because, you go your entire life knowing one thing, and then you kind of just stop. And that's obviously at the kind of precipice of your life, because I was, in high school at the time and just about to graduate. It was, I guess, 17, 18. So it was a long period of time I raced motocross, which, suits me because I'm a very individual guy. I love team sports, but I think at the end of the day, I how I work now is very much on individual basis. So it fit me for many years.
I love that. And that makes sense now, because, I used to be a skateboarder as well, nowhere near the level that you were at when it comes to motocross. I wish. But when I used to go to the X Games out here in Los Angeles, just the brotherhood that a lot of people don't see. While they're competing with each other, there's a lot of patting on the back. There's a lot of congratulations. Like, dude, that jump was pretty sick, or that trick was awesome, right? There's a lot of that. Would you say that, well, maybe that is it, but like, if you were to look at the 16 years of being in motocross, is there anything that you take away from that you're applying today in your real estate business or in your life?
Yeah, for sure. I would say that for me with motocross, it was always upon myself to get better. So for me, it was an individual sport that was, if I wanted to get better, I had to pursue what better meant. And if it was never one blanketed item, it was always come down to like very strategic and methodical things. Like if I wanted to go 4 seconds faster on a lap, it's really not that hard. If you think about, 4 seconds a lap when you're trying over and over and over to cut time. But if you're methodical about things, I was always taught from a young age with a lot of older pros and people around me, you just break it down. Just like anything in life, you break it down into baby steps. And so there's 28, there's 22 corners on a track. Well, 4 seconds. Do 4 seconds divided by 22. Well, what is that, like 0.3 seconds? So 0.3 seconds on every single turn, you have to get a little better. That's it. So what does that mean? Well, are you comfortable in the turn? Well, go in a little bit faster then. If you're comfortable, go in a little bit faster. Hold the gas for a half a second faster into the corner, or get on the gas sooner. Is there a different line you can take that would set you up faster, whatever? And those are the things, because like and I think that is like literally probably the best analogy that goes into business, is that if you look at life as a big blanket and say, this is going to be really hard. The wall is very hard. I don't know how to get over the wall. Just break it down into a lot of little steps, because it makes it so much easier to visualize. Because technically, if I said there's 22 corners on a track and you're trying your best, but all you have to do is get 0.3 seconds faster, or whatever the second is was. And someone would go, that's it? That's all I have to do. And you didn't say you have to go 4 or 5 seconds faster each lap. You just talked about that.
Yeah.
As humans, we can visualize success. We can visualize being able to achieve it, versus seeing something that's a big wall and being like, what's the point in trying if I'm going to continue to fail? So I think that for myself, like, no matter what it was, if it was a level, if it was a track time, if it was, getting to a new, qualifying for a certain event, it was like, okay, if this is how fast the person is, the top qualifier went, this is how fast I have to go.
I love that.
Is it my bike? Am I pushing my bike to the full limit? No, there's never a time in life that, and so like you start getting rid of excuses as well, right? Because you always be like, well, I wish I would have gone faster because it was this, or I could have signed the deal if I was wearing a different suit, or if I drove that nicer car, or if I had the nicer camera, I would shoot better content. It's like, no, it's never into that. It's you. It's breaking down the things to get better strategically and methodically. So that's crazy
that you said that, because like I see a correlation with agents. Like I never thought of it that way, because like I like how you broke it down, because if me not being a motocross guy, if you're like Burton, you're like 5 seconds over the mark, like you got to shave off 5 seconds. How the hell do I do that, right? Yeah. But then you like literally said it so methodically. You're like, well, there's 22 corners. You just got to shave off a little bit in each corner. What you just described is KPIs, key performance indicators. Exactly. Yep. That's what agents are doing. Yep. Some are not doing, which is again very important. So now let's use the same correlation. Like you describing, hey, I got to shave off 4 seconds on this next lap. There's 22 corners. I got to do 0.3, right? That's KPI. That's saying, hey, I know there's 22 corners. Here's what I got to do to get that better results. Yeah. Same thing with KPI. I want to do 20 million.
This is how much I make per deal.
How many calls
deals
did you
come from a phone call? I have to make this many phone calls per day. That's it.
Absolutely. And if you do that, it's measurable. Right. Absolutely. But the challenge, though, and I think what's very important for some listeners, are you even doing it? Because there's 2 types of racers. There's the racers that have that same mindset Dan has, which is, okay, I got to shave off 4 seconds. Here's how I'm going to do it. 22 corners. This is what I got to do on every corner. And then there's the agent that's doing the same thing. Hey, I want to make $20 million this year. This is how many calls I got to make, how many offers I got to make, how many of the contracts have to hit closing. But then there are also the racers that don't do that. And then they're just like, how the hell am I going to save 4 seconds or shave 4 seconds off this? There's also the agents that run KPI, and you mentioned it. They're probably in like,
they're just going around the track.
Do I need to dress up? Yeah. Do I need to rent out a faster looking car? Like, what do I got to do to get my sales up? And they don't have anything measured at all. So I think what you mentioned was very, very important. And I love that. That key takeaway is I love that bettering myself,
the cool part about
utilizing
what you were just
that
saying,
KPI.
The cool part was what you were just saying too about the KPIs and say that the shaving seconds on a corner. The more you do it, because you are focused on the actual movement of what you're doing, you end up cutting more time. You end up producing more. Because here's the deal, is like, we break things down conservatively. Just like I said, like, oh, well, you're going to do 0.3. Well, what happens if like every time I go in hotter into the corner and come out hotter, and I'm actually saving 0.6 on every time, and now I'm shaving 7 seconds, so it's like way different, but it's like the slight change. The same with, well, if I shave down 20 million, is, I'm doing $500,000 a deal, so this many phone calls, and it's like, okay, so let's just say it's 42 calls a day. Well, here's the deal. It's like, as you get better with time, so does your performance. And we started our numbers on your old performance. So here's the cool part is as you make more dials, so does your performance gets way better. So you end up looking back and you go, well, I did 26 million this year and I was going for 20. I didn't even hit my goal. I got over my goal. Is because you were focused on just the routines that you needed to make every single day. Because like what you say, most people don't even use KPIs. So if they don't use KPIs, they're not doing the daily things they need to do. So if you're just one of the agents that's watching this, that's a routine and hitting your daily activities that you need to, you're going to crush it. You're the 1%.
I love that. Great message. Yeah, and when you were saying that, I was like, KPIs. Like, he literally is describing motocross KPIs. But yeah, no, I think that was a very, 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 very big gem that you just gave out there. Dan, I want to ask you an honest question. I'm sorry if this might be a little personal.
No,
but
nothing's ever personal. I
16
gave you
years,
go for it.
16 years of motocross, and it all just stops because of the broken wrist. Man, I don't know about you, but I personally would have felt like my whole world just went upside down. Personally, I would have felt like that was a huge setback for me. I don't know how you felt, but if you did feel the same way, how did you overcome such a big setback? Again, for me, I would have felt like my world was upside down. I don't know if that's how you felt, but how did you overcome that feeling, if any?
I think I did overcome it. It took a while. It was a lot because I think I defined my entire life as being one thing, and you don't, and here's the thing is like, I don't talk about in high school. I was homeschooled most of my life for racing, and I attended some classes at a high school, and graduated from there. But while I was there, I took a lot of marketing and business classes. So like the thing was as much as my goal and my whole life was defined by motocross, I did have a lot of other enjoyment. So it took me a while to find that. Immediately after I got hurt, I kind of realized I wasn't going to be able to race. So I figured out I need to do something with my life. And I was able to get into a really great marketing school. And I think it was because of some creative things that I'd done in my application. But back in the day, you could feel creative with marketing. Not creative like lying, but I meant like creative stories and stuff like that. And that it kind of like pique people into it. Because I had not applied to many schools, and this happened right in my senior year. So that being said, I didn't handle it well, and I don't know. I think that there's a lot of different things that I wish I had done better. Handling, losing a whole piece of me, and I do think it took a while. But in the long run of things, I think that it came down to redefining who I wanted to be, because I had only defined myself as one thing instead of letting myself be who I was. I always saw myself as just a motocross rider versus being someone that's like, I was also creative. Like I loved making things and creating and art and photography. I also loved business and marketing, but I never gave myself any of those breathing, or areas to breathe at all, because I told myself I was just this one person. And so when it was taken away, I thought everything was over, instead of realizing like, I'm still a human. Like it's just one thing. It's like I think any athlete or someone that has a dream and they go after it and it's just kind of taken away from them. I do think it doesn't matter how much you can tell that person. They need to go through what that moment is for them. But on the other side of it, though, you start realizing there's more to you as a human than just that one thing that defined you. And so for me, I found out that what did I love about the sport? I loved being able to push myself to get better and define who I was and push myself mentally. I loved being around a lot of other people and putting things together. So what I ended up doing quickly after I got into college, I went to advertising school, which is a pretty defined like part of business school that was really cool, and I enjoyed it because the work is a lot different than most schools. It's a lot of like just working with businesses and understanding the core strategies of marketing and advertising. So right when I got into school, I was like, I really love this stuff. I'm going to start utilizing this in the industry. So my friends were still racing, and I actually ended up like helping a lot of them get sponsorship deals because I was just a marketing guy. I was like,
wow.
hey,
Look at
so
you.
what ended up starting my first business was subculture marketing. And so what I ended up doing was getting my friends, sponsorships because they were racing pro, but they were called privateers, meaning like they were paying or their parents were paying for them to go on the pro tour. And if they could score high enough, they'd probably get picked up by a team. Well, there's still a lot of people that want their stuff out there. So I would align it and get us money, and I was going out to all the races. And so I started finding myself kind of, understanding like, okay, who do I need to know? Like in making friends within the industry and at the pro races in the pits and stuff like that. And I started building a lot more of a Rolodex of like, Dan was the person to go to on this, or just go see
for
this
the
or that.
marketing and like getting yourself sponsored okay.
So I did that for a couple years with my friends, and that was more of me trying to grow up. And it was during college actually. So I moved around college for a little bit. Went to Georgia Southern University for 2 years, and then went back to Providence. But during that time, I was just traveling and going to a lot of these races. So what it ended up showing me was two things: is I really enjoyed connecting people. I really, really enjoyed connecting people for almost like a middleman, but also in marketing in marketing terms, meaning like this person has something that you want. I think you two should do this. And it was more of just merging two people with an idea, which that's really marketing. If you really just break it all down, it's like, I'm bringing two people together with an idea and they just think it's natural. Well, in the masses, that's marketing, right? Like I'm bringing this water bottle to the masses of people through a story, and hopefully they buy it, right? That's marketing.
That's amazing.
I did that for a while, and then the other thing I noticed though was motocross was very expensive, but no one had money. So what I mean no one had money is if you're doing work with these people, it's very hard to make a lot of money. Like it's a hobby. Yeah. And there's a lot of money in the sport, but is there money in the marketing? Do the companies that I meet, now I'm working with the companies and I say, well, hey, we started offering websites. Your website's really bad. And so that's what we did is, subculture marketing ended up doing a lot of like digital assets, and it was called business to billboard. So we did basically business cards, designs, logos, stuff like that, all the way up to billboard advertising. And then we started doing websites. So what I noticed was, you work with them, you're like, yeah, we can't afford that. I'm like, well, this is crazy. What are you guys doing then? I'm not going to work with you guys. So I started, doing a lot more local stuff, and that's what ended up launching my marketing company. And I got into a lot more healthcare. I was doing a lot more healthcare marketing, stuff like that in Providence.
So that's really cool. So you
went into motocross went right into like marketing. Career.
Yeah, I was going to say. So the motocross.
To answer your question,
you did 16 years of it. Then you broke your wrist in age 18, and then you stumbled, in this case, into the advertising marketing courses. Then you started helping your other, riders with helping them market their, who they are to get sponsorships. And then you started working with the sponsors, helping them build out their stuff. And then we started kind of going. My question to you, and this is kind of, I think you kind of answered it within the story that you mentioned, but like, for someone that's listening right now, Dan, who probably might have just gone through what you just experienced at the age of 18, what you experienced at the age of 18, you did mention that, hey, you're just going to have to go through it and discover, the reality of it. But like, while they're going through that, while they're in that moment, what piece of advice would you give them while they're in that moment? If their world just got flipped upside down, again, they have to probably endure what they're about to go through. But while they're doing that, what's that one piece of advice you'd like to give that person?
There's always more to your story. And what I mean by that is I think that we always write an ending to our story before the story's done. And I think we always like to write our own conclusions on what things are. And the deeper meaning behind that is I think before we look at something as a failure, as the ending, I think we should try to look at it and understand what it actually is, because it's a transition. It's a transition of things. So it's not, your life's not over. It's you're transitioning into something else. And I'd say that most people through life become better when they go, if you're looking to get past a tragedy, if you're looking to get better at something, you're most likely over time going to have a better life. So I think that you have to look at these life-altering moments and understand they're just transitions. And there is no failures. There is absolutely no failures. They're just experiences. And, a lot of them, A lot of the experiences we can't control, and the ones we can control, we learn lessons. But other than that, you're just writing your own news story. So you have to be empathetic with yourself, but don't sit in the pity for too long, because then you end up just like a lot of the world that's just sad and ruminating on their life. You have to understand that if you are genuinely looking to come out of a situation, you have more power than a lot of people. So you should just continue to find that, because if not, you're just going to be sad, and that sucks.
Yeah, great advice, man. I wanted to ask you that because, I mean, this whole conversation has been about, experience. And you experienced something that, not too many people go through, and that's literally having this one image of themselves or what they believe is what they are, right? Like you said earlier, this was just the one thing that I knew I was, and then the world flipped upside down.
I think the word failure really messed with me for a long period of time. The word failure really messed with me.
Let's talk about it. What do you mean by that?
Because I think that for myself, when you paint yourself a picture of what you're going to do with your life, and it doesn't align, your life doesn't exactly align with that. And I don't know if everyone's taught this way. Maybe it was just my household, but I think a lot of people in general think like, certain things are failures like that. And when nothing perfectly aligns to what you think it needs to be, or, you get hurt when you think you're going to become pro, or you set out to become a real estate agent and you've only done 2 deals and now you're the stat, or whatever it is, I think that we put ourselves in a hole, and I just think that it's something you can never come back from, and you have to always look forward. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think sometimes we're our biggest worst critic. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I say that because, I've gone through moments in life where people have given the best advice. Like, literally, they have literally given me the solution to my situation. But internally, I'm not ready to hear it. And internally, I'm the only one that could make that change. And sometimes that thought of failure, even though solutions are being provided, can weigh so heavily that I agree with you. Sometimes we put ourselves in a hole that we think is hard to get out
and there's
of.
There's no failures. Like, and I think that the older I get, the more I realize it's just experiences and understanding that it's just I think that society is defined what failure and success looks like, because what we started with and what we started talking about on this is what is true success of a business? Is it you being on the top of Forbes? Then that's your definition of success, and that's great. And honestly, right now, maybe you could, I don't know if failure is even in your definition because you're shooting for the stars, but I think that failure in general is just this stupid thing that most humans deal with as a success or fail. It's black or white, yes or no. And in reality, it's always it's on such a moving scale of you showed up really hard, but things didn't go your way. If things didn't go the way, that doesn't mean that you did a bad job. There's so much more to the black and white situation of failure or success. And so I think that for myself, I just got myself into a huge hole of thinking of this was a failure. What was all this time spent? I can't believe I wasted this, versus looking at it I made a lot of friends from this experience. I learned a lot of things. I got myself way better over time. I got stronger mentally. Yes, this didn't work out exactly like I wanted, but how can I now pivot? How can I change something in my life right now to continue having the fun I'm having, or the life I want to lead? Because here's the thing is it wasn't just about the dirt bikes. It wasn't just about the adrenaline or whatever that is. It was about the moment I was putting myself in. It was I liked to compete at a high level with a lot of people around with high stakes. Look what I'm doing now. I'm building businesses. So and that's the thing is if you asked me a question earlier, it's if you're sitting here, that's why you need to open your eyes, because there's always something else. There's always something else that looks exactly like what you're doing that just is completely different. Instead of me working out and training for motocross, I'm now reading a lot of books and connecting with people and staying up late and building things. It's very similar, completely different lives. My brain is the same, so you can't live yourself in a woe is me, I can't believe this happened to me, or I'm such a failure, this was a failure, the time was a failure. Even if you get laid off from a job, if something happens bad in life, you have to look at it and go, all right, this happened. How can I pivot to make the best situation from here? Because those people are the ones that once again can stack wins. because the wins are like 10x. Because if the losses are a 2x and they're actually learning on the losses, then the wins are way more versus the people that put themselves in the hole.
Dan, I just got chills. I literally did. First off, I know we're at the end of the episode or the session here. I just want to say thank you so much. But everything you just said just sent shivers down my spine because I agree with you 100%. You know, like life is supposed to happen. And sometimes those moments that you feel like a failure are actually moments that are building you up. 100%. And I like to use your story as an example. You know, at the age of 3, you start motocrossing. You do it for 16 years. And you mentioned while you're doing it, what you loved about doing it is how it helped you better yourself individually. Now, at the age of 18, you break your wrist and the thought of failure comes around, right? And it's weighing heavily on yourself. And I'll be honest with you, most people, that's a tough moment for them. Most people stop right there. Most people can't get themselves out. But you saw light at the end of the tunnel. While one thing was coming in and another chapter was beginning, and that was your advertisement chapter, that was your networking chapter, that was starting to understand empathetically because I went through a situation, so let me start listening to other people's situation. And then you get into real estate, and I understand that you might have felt like a failure at one point, but everything that you're doing today, Dan, and what I see on your social media and what you've done for people that are relocating to your state, brother, you're nothing but a success in my book. But that's what sent me shivers in my spine. This wasn't planned. This wasn't something that you knew at the age of 3 that, hey, I'm going to be Dan, the best relocator in Saratoga, Florida. No, you weren't there, but you had, and I like how you said, like, you kind of failed forward, right? Kind of like motocross. Like when you're hitting a gap, you better hit that gap because otherwise you're still going forward and you're going to fall forward, right?
You're on one side or the other. That's it.
Yeah, like you're going to learn. And that's what I loved. And so when you were sharing everything today, in that very last moment when you were talking, when you shared that, man, you sent shivers down my spine because I'm like, look at where we're at today. And I find myself there. There was a moment in time I thought I was going to be somebody else, but that didn't pan out. I stumbled, but I held on tight like most of us listening to this episode right now. And if you're still holding on tight, keep holding on tight. Me and Dan believe in you.
1,000%.
But you learn, and then that's what builds who you really are. So Dan, I just want to thank you, man. Like your story, everything from what you've shared on the real estate side of how you successfully are doing what you do in the relocation part and other things too. I mean, you're not just a relocation agent.
No, it's
people
locally
too.
Yeah, no, there's a lot more to it, but I think that the stuff that we covered today that was like, honestly, that is the inside working into why I am where I am today. Like everything that I have going forward, like some of the stuff that I'm going to have, coming out over the next year, even with other stuff I'm working on and stuff, like this is the basis of it. Like the basis of it comes down to like, how can we fail forward? How can we learn every day to like just fix? And like, I kind of look at everything like everything's not a test. Like, don't think about it like a test in school. But in racing, you grow up with testing, meaning like you go out to a track and you just ride and you tweak things and you ride and you tweak things. And it's almost like you, what's the name of the thing? It's like when you don't know how to do something, you just try it and then you tweak it and try to tweak it. Testing's kind of like that, but you obviously start with a very good thing and you're just tweaking and tweaking and tweaking. That's the way I look at failures and activities on an everyday basis. Nothing's ever like, well, that didn't work. Like we got to do the opposite of that, or like, wow, we wasted a bunch of money on this like advertisement platform or these like leads or whatever it was. It's like, well, now we know that doesn't work, and like now we kind of have to write that into our script. Like, or is it something on our side? Like, there's always something to take from it, and like it's almost like in those, I remember the testing notebooks we used to have. It's like the notebooks had nothing to do with the race, the working out, nothing to do with it. Had to do with like suspension settings. Little things we're tweaking that are going to happen on the race day, or little things that are like on today's the rain day. Like we used to, notes were like, this is the weather. This is what's happening. Exactly what's happening. So we can notate what's really going on. And that's what the difference is. If you can't fail forward without taking the notes. You can't fail forward without looking at what happened and dissecting it and writing it down and notating it. You have to have a testing notebook like I had growing up, but what you can have is something to go, okay, well, when the stock market plunges, most of my clients are cranky because I deal with luxury clients where most of their money and wealth is in the stock market. Those are the different, that's your weather, right? So now my testing, I could go back. Okay, last time the weather was bad. Okay, be empathetic, text versus calling, like whatever it is. You know what I mean? So I look at all my failures. Like here's the thing is like, and the testing came from, if you look back at the notebook, the testing is like write the text versus the email. It's because Bob yelled at me today because I called him and the market was down and he's really pissed that we didn't sell his house yet. Had nothing to do with me selling his house. It's the market.
I love that. So the key point here is every failure has a lesson to be learned. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. Because that's true. Like if you're taking a math test and 1 + 1 and you put 3, obviously that's wrong. But did you learn from that? Like, did you realize that the answer is not 3, it's 2?
Take the score off. Don't look at the failure or the pass or fail from school, but just look at the test and be like, how would you go to the next one? You'd look at the test and go, oh, I got this one wrong. Which one? Okay, now I fixed it in my head. Let's move on. That's it.
There you go. That's, man, okay, I love that.
I didn't mean to restart. I know you were trying to like summarize everything, but I wanted to say this because I think
that's important.
I think the failing forward is like, it's not just like, I want to go out and fail. It's like, no, let's study the failures. And they're not even failures. Study the experience and figure out like I said, Bob yelled at me, don't call, text. Like, just that's it.
But I think that's important because like that's the overall theme from this episode that I'm hearing is just how are we adapting to setbacks? Because setbacks can happen in business, setbacks can happen in our personal lives.
1,000%.
Heck, there might be a future setback that you don't even realize that's right around the corner. But what are you going to do when it happens? You know, are you prepared to adapt? And like Dan says, it's weather, right? If we understand that setbacks are going to happen, are we prepared? Do we have our notes? Do we have our presets? You know, when we go out to the track and it's muddy 1,000%. And rainy, we got to change our presets.
I love that too.
Exactly. Yep. So very important. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, we're going to go through seasons in our lives. We might be going through it right now while we're listening to this, but keep your eyes and ears peeled because there's some lesson to be learned. And that lesson, as Dan has shared, the lessons in his lives have become some of his biggest ammunition to get some of the biggest deals and help some of the biggest clients in this business. So Dan, I just want to say thank you again. This episode, the whole thing was amazing. I learned a lot from you. I love your energy. I'm sure some of our listeners are going to want to learn more about you. There was just a lot we obviously just couldn't go over today. What's the best way for them to reach out to you and connect with you?
I'm once again Dan MacKinnon. I'm down in Sarasota, Florida. You can hit me up on Instagram. It's Dan the Realtor, Dan_the_Realtor. It's really easy to find. Just type in Dan the Realtor. If not, you can go to our website, locallifehomes.com. You can learn more about our area. Live right on the Gulf Coast down here next to Siesta Key. So if you're ever down this area, you need more help. If you're an agent, hit me up on Instagram. I am a pro coach over at Sell It, Ryan Serhant's program. So if you're ever looking for more of this type of talking in your business, feel free to hit me up. I'll introduce you to some great coaches over there. All right. Thanks so much, Burton. I really appreciate it. This has been great. I love our conversation.
Dan, this was amazing. I can't wait to maybe follow up with you in the next few months.
We might have to do a part 2 because we didn't even get to half the things you want to talk about. So we'll have to plan it once your season, maybe next season, I'll come back on.
I agree. We definitely need to follow up with you, see where you're at in the future, and then there's a lot more I know you could share with us. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. My name is Burton. Make sure to check out our next episode of PropStream Pros. And again, if you want to connect with Dan, we're going to put all of his links down below in the description. So make sure you click on them. Make sure you follow and subscribe to him, and just keep following along his amazing journey. But until next time, guys, thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in to the PropStream Pros Podcast. Subscribe for weekly insights and real strategies to help you close more deals. See you next time.